We're live with Paranormal Spirits. This place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night, and I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. This is my wife, Alyssa Black.
Hello.
My best friend, John Burkett.
Hello there.
Hello there. And
how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
What's your name?
So we do this, and tonight we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We talk about all these different stories about the Amityville horror, and we talk about Bigfoots, and we still never decided is it Big Feet or Bigfoots, or just Bigfoot.
I think it's just a bit like deer. You know,
Deer.
It's the same word
Right.
for the plural.
Or moose,
or moose.
Yeah, okay. So Bigfoot. But tonight we're gonna bring it home. We're gonna make it a little more personal for us, and we're gonna talk about our own experiences and what got us started in the search for paranormal stuff and the research behind it and the ghost hunting and all that good stuff. Before we do that, I want to tell you about all the places you can find us. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can listen to the podcast just about anywhere that you go and listen to a podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, you can listen to the YouTube version if you want to, where you get to see the video and get to see what we really look like. And that's at 3B Paranormal Spirits on YouTube. We have a website, paranormal-spirits.com. We have a Facebook group, that's Booze with Benefits. We have an Instagram page, and Instagram is paranormal_-spirits, and the dash is spelled out on that one. And same thing for the TikTok.
The dash is not silent.
Yeah, the dash is not silent, and it is spelled out. But on Twitter, it's still MW Black 1966 because that's how it works there.
Elon won't let you change it.
Yeah, no, he won't let me change it. And so I don't know why. Maybe the new CEO will be more forgiving and allow me to change my name on there. But if you go to the website at paranormal-spirits.com, you can see all the fancy swag that we have there. We have coffee cups, we have coffee mugs, we have trucker caps, we have dad caps, we have racerback tees, we have t-shirts, we have...
what is a racerback? Is that one of those like power lifter tops with the string back?
Yeah, it goes in. It kind of goes in at the top and then comes out.
Like the back looks like a sports bra. Like
Yeah.
that you work out in.
Looks sexier. That's what it's about.
For the ladies.
And then, yeah, we even have koozies there. So
Boozies koozies.
boozies koozies. And John doesn't have his boozies koozie
don't.
yet.
I just have my legend.
So we'll get that for him. Anyway, that's all the places you can go see us and check out our other stuff. And like we start every night, we do when we record, we start it with a drink of the night. And tonight, since this is kind of a special night for us, we're talking about our own experiences and everything, I thought I would bring to the table something special. And this is a very highly touted, lightly peated Lagavulin 16.
This is, as Ron Swanson would say, God's chosen elixir.
So John, you were the Scotch drinker of the bunch. Tell us about Lagavulin 16.
It's a 16-year-old Islay single malt Scotch. It's from Islay, which is an island in the Inner Hebrides off the western coast of Scotland. It is aged for a minimum of 16 years.
Smells like a boot.
Thank you. Smells like a what?
A boot?
Boot.
This
Smells
is
like
so they stopped the
Is it
malting
leather?
process on it. There's no trees, so the malting process of the is stopped with heat from peat smoke from peat bogs, and that's what you're smelling is peat smoke.
Yeah, it smells like leather boots.
Do you know what I smell? I get a little bit of, it's kind of medicinal, like iodine.
Well, iodine, that's the ocean. It's also you're gonna get a little salt because the warehouse
Yeah, iodine. Yeah,
is sitting on the, literally sitting on the coast, getting battered by the Irish Sea.
Okay.
Yeah, it says that it gets its taste from the water source. If this whiskey was made with any other kind of water, it would taste nothing like Lagavulin.
Okay.
It,
All right.
it may be an acquired taste that you guys have never had a peated whiskey before.
I've never
but
had a peated whiskey before.
You might as well just skip all the others.
And-
Forget the rest. Go straight to the best.
Well, I've heard you talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it. So
I love this stuff.
I have to try it. So
What's the price point on this one since
It's
it's...
about $110.
That'll
it ain't
hurt.
cheap.
You know, there are times when you're supposed to have my back.
Oh, sorry. $50.
When my wife asks you how much $100 bottle of Scotch cost, 111, wasn't it?
111,
Yeah.
There's
Ooh,
three ones on
111.
Yeah. So when my wife asks you how much $111 bottle of Scotch
Still
costs,
cheaper than the tequila in the.
Yeah, my fancy tequila.
that's
but
when
like,
you tell her, oh, it's like $50.
Well, I
don't
didn't
have
want
to
to.
lie.
I mean, I
You
didn't
get
think
your
about
money, I
that
got mine.
because someone might go running down to their local liquor store
They
and
might.
have sticker shock when if they're expected to pay $50.
And they could only get a half a bottle then at that point.
Yeah,
So-
and these are not sold in 375s. These only come in 750s.
Yeah.
So
All right. So it smells
you're gonna get that peat,
okay.
smells interesting.
That's-
but
what-
I can smell the sherry because this is aged in sherry casks, and I can smell past the peat, and I can pick up on that.
I can smell that too.
I can a little. So
There's something magical about sherry cask and peat that
cilantro.
slancha.
Interesting. I don't hate that.
I don't hate that.
That's weird though.
That does not like taste. That
The way it
My
tastes
tongue-
is like it
My
smells.
tongue just did somersaults. It
It tastes like you want to be sitting in a little cabin overlooking
the lock.
the lock.
You know, when you breathe out, you get that sherry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you breathe out, but then when you breathe back in, you get that boot. That iodine medicinal. Medicinal's not fair.
No,
It's not nearly as medicinal as Lafroig.
No, it doesn't burn.
No, not at all.
There's no
At 16
heat
years old,
burning.
it better not burn.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like you know, I didn't know what to expect. I could see how that could be like as you eat it, drink it, that it would be.
So I get
It
a.
is thick too, though. You say eat it, but you hold it up and look at the legs. It's
I get a lot of different flavors though. It's not
It's
like
funny as
you
you
know-
as you kind of like breathe in.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like the kind of like the whiskey / scotches. I keep forget the difference, but whiskeys
Why are you
like the
whispering?
sherry. Because I'm
Yeah,
second
that's
guessing
it.
myself.
Oh, okay. Spit it out there, babe. Spit it out.
Be confident.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So no, I get a lot because some things that you get are just they're just one dimensional. I mean, they got one flavor and that's
This is an
it.
extremely complex flavor going on
This
here.
it is complex because I'm getting a lot of different flavors from the initial, first blush when it first gets in your mouth, and then there's like after it sits there for a second, then I get another flavor, and then I get another one on the back
It's
side of it.
It's a almost sweet aftertaste that lingers for a long time.
It does linger.
So we talk about how it's an acquired taste. Did you like this the minute you tasted it the first
So
time?
I started out because I wanted to try peated whiskeys. So I started out with Ardbeg Wee Beastie, which is a 5-year-old that's about twice as much peat content as this does.
Wow.
And then I kept drinking, and the first time it hit me like the mezcal, and I had the same reaction as like, oh, right.
Like drinking an Erlanger
It's a
beer or
stout
something.
one. It's a really strong peat. It's a peat monster, you call it, right? It's not like this. And I kept like once a week I would pour a dram, and then one day all of a sudden I tasted the malt. It was like it became more than one dimension eventually.
Right.
And then I think I went to Lafroig because I want to see what is this mermaid's bathwater tastes like that they call. And eventually I was like, okay, let's go for this because this is legendary. You know, if you ever watch Parks and Recreation, you see Nick Offerman's character on there, Ron Swanson.
And this is all he drinks.
This is all he
See,
drinks.
I didn't watch The Office. We tried.
Not The Office, Parks and
Rec.
Recreation.
Oh, I'm sorry, Parks and Rec. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, he is a celebrity spokesman for the distillery. And they have, this year they came out with the third Offerman edition.
Oh, really?
And this year it's charred oak barrels. So they're doing charred barrels.
Wow.
They're aging in it for 11 years.
I bet I would like that.
This also comes in an 8-year. But this is kind of their general. And then there's a distiller's edition, which is cost prohibitive.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's about $250 or something, I think, that
yeah.
bottle. And Offerman's is about $80. Last year, the Offerman edition was Guinness casks.
Oh, that's interesting. I think that would be interesting.
So, as I sit here and I taste this over and over, I'm starting to taste the salt.
Yeah,
You can taste the salt.
from
in
the
it.
ocean.
It's like it's salted, you know.
it's the ocean.
Yeah.
That's where that iodine and the salt is coming. It comes from the ocean. I find, to me, it's so complex, and you keep finding new stuff in there that I just love it.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
But I can see it's an acquired. I can see how it could be an acquired taste for people.
I think
Oh, yeah.
it all. I mean,
It's
so
not.
is
This
beer.
is not
I
an
mean,
easy. This is not something like the Brooklotic that.
Right. Well, I think it's because of the peat.
Or
I mean,
like
it's
Oh, it's
Sam
definitely
Dude.
the
smoke.
peat.
I mean, it's kind of like mezcal. I don't know many people that are just like get some mezcal and like, yeah, that's the jam. Like,
No,
Well,
I still have almost a full bottle of mezcal. Like,
you're supposed to be bringing it so we can mix it with some pineapple
Yeah,
juice
I
and
forgot I
try
meant
it.
to do that today. But every time, the 2 times that I've tried it, it's not the same though. Like peat smoke
No, it's
is one thing.
yeah, no, that's like it's like fire smoke.
Sucking on a fuel filter from a diesel truck is what mezcal tastes.
This is like a boot. I'm telling you, I
There
get
is
this
some.
leather.
I get that leather too. I know what you're saying. It tastes like Wilson's smells.
Yeah, but
You know.
you know those leather car air fresheners that I get? So
Yeah.
before you put it in your car and get that true like leathery smell, it's got this kind of a smell where it's like a lot all at one time.
Yeah.
And that's what this smells and tastes like.
And it does.
That's what makes me think of the leather.
This and a steak
I could see
is
that.
a magical combination.
I could totally
Now,
see
is this
that.
something you'd put ice in
And asparagus too, for some reason.
to let it breathe or whatever? Or you just
You could
on
put
the rocks?
I would not. I mean, I wouldn't. It seems like a sin, but some people would put like a drop or 2 of water to kind of open it up and separate the oils a little bit. And
I've
it
heard
might
that
taste
too.
different.
That it helps open it up.
Yeah, I've never done that. I mean, but I would not put it on the rocks because as soon as those rocks start melting,
It's good
you're
water
just
down.
Water it
Water
down,
down.
And waste it.
So I have to read what the quote from Nick Offerman on the Lagavulin website. I have traveled the world and sampled many attempts at pleasing nectars, but it is solely this distillation of Islay, a tiny charismatic Scottish isle, that has claimed my palate, yea, and my heart into the bargain.
Oh my God.
So what do
Yeah.
you think, babe? You like it?
I like it. I can see. I want to drink more because it's like
No, you'll give it like once or twice a week, have a dram of it, and then all of a sudden
it's like I get it.
you're gonna be like, oh, okay,
This is good.
I get it. That and I got it with a much lesser spirit than this one.
Yeah.
And it's funny if you start sampling all the peated Islas,
Mm-hmm.
the peat
You're all
tastes
different.
different from different parts of the island.
You can see that.
Ardbeg peat is very, very earthy.
Mm-hmm.
The peat that you get from a Lafroig is a little more smoky, and they have a lot more iodine kind of flavor to the soil.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, this is just the perfect balance. It's a little less peated than those other 2,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something about sherry cask, like that dried fruit
Mm-hmm.
flavor from the sherry, and then throwing some smoke on there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
See, you can tell John's just in is in love with it over there,
Yes.
and I'm like, yeah.
He feels about
like
this as
it.
I do about tequila.
I have the
Awesome.
bottle at home has about that much left in it.
It's like
and I don't want to drink because it's like
It's like I had to try it.
I
So
save it for special occasions.
So we talked about it, and we talked about our booze, BOOZE, and our booze for the night is Lagavulin 16, and with a very complex palate. The nose it's almost like leather, like a leather air freshener almost. It's got that little bit of iodine smell to it.
Well, I can tell you what they say.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that the same people that write the marketing for Rolex, as you pointed out the other day.
Right. They don't go near as descriptive as the Siete Leguas, but this is the legendary Smoky Isla malt, and the benchmark dram of this iconic distillery, aged in oak casks for at least 16 years. It has intense peat smoke and a rich sweetness on the nose, then sherry, fruit, and smoke on the palate, leaving a long, spicy finish with appetizing sweetness. It's also 43% ABV, so it's a little bit higher proof than.
So let's talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night. And we all have had our experiences with paranormal activity, paranormal investigations, and what spurred me down this path that I began on. It started when I was a child, and you need to go to the bathroom, or are you cold?
I'm a little cold, but I'm okay.
Okay, you're just bouncing over there. It really threw me off. I
I'm
apologize.
sorry.
Okay, I'm like, what is she doing? So when I was a kid, prepubescent. I mean, so not even in the
In the
teenage years.
1950s.
Yeah, yeah.
Right after World War II ended.
Yeah, right after I got
Okay, boomer.
back from the WW2, No, I was just a kid, and I started having this. I didn't know what to call it other than flashes. And the way these flashes came to me is when I was laying in bed at night, and I was right between that. I'm not asleep yet, but I'm not awake either, and I'm kind of in that in between, almost trance-like state. And I'm going to read you what it says about that state, because I didn't know what to call it as a kid. I just knew it was kind of that in-between thing. And it's called hypnasia. Hypnasia is the transition between wakefulness and sleep. During this state, it's common to experience visual, audio, and other types of hallucinations. It's also common to experience muscle jerks and sleep paralysis. The phenomenon of hypnasia, the deeply relaxed state of consciousness that occurs prior to falling asleep, and has been recognized for hundreds of years as a source of creative thought and intuition. The physical explanation for hypnasia is rooted in the discovery of magnetite crystals in the cells of the brain and the meninges, and how these crystals could be the cause and explanation behind psychic abilities and feelings of intuition.
What are meninges? Isn't that your fingers? Your toes?
No, that's phalanges.
Your
Fingers are
meninges, your toes?
no, those are phalange as well.
I don't think you're saying it right.
What?
Meningitis?
not-
Oh, meningitis. Okay, meningitis.
Meninges.
Got it.
It's
Understood.
I'm not saying what right.
It's hypnagogia. Hypnagogia.
Well, this is a good time to bring it up.
No, I see how it was spelled.
It is hypnagogia. You're right.
Yeah, it's
I apologize.
hypnagogia. Sorry, I was
His
like,
Okay, we can cut all
his
that
version
out.
actually sounds better than because
hypnagogia.
that's
Hypnagogia. Okay. So, hypnagogia, as I've been corrected, is this state in between wakefulness and sleep. And so when I was there, when I was a kid, and I would get into these states, I would see these flashes. It's what I called them, but they were scenes, for lack of a better description. And it might be something as simple as seeing a cup on a table, or I remember one time it was the Bondo on a truck where some body work was being done. But it would just be these just little quick flashes, and it's gone. And a lot of times it would wake me up because it would be so bright and vivid when I would see these things. As I got closer to puberty, these scenes became longer and more complex, and there was more stuff going on. Sometimes there were conversations. And so it's not weird to have these visual things happen in that state. What was strange was that these things that I saw, I would see again in wakefulness, real life, days, weeks, months later.
Like deja vu.
Vuja day, because it's the other way he's seeing something he hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
Deja vu's when you
exactly.
When you've been there already.
right.
Yeah. So I would see
day.
this, and then I'm like, oh my God, that's, I just saw this a couple of nights ago or a week or so ago. So it got to the point to where I started keeping a journal, and I would write these things down. I would make myself wake up as soon as it happened. I would write it down. I would draw it out. And I mean, there were times when there were conversations that were going on between me and someone else, or, seeing two people have conversation. And so I would be in the conversation, and I know what's going to happen in this conversation. And I try to change it and couldn't. I could not change what I was going to say. It was like it had already been written by the Allfather or whatever. And, I could not change it as much as I tried. And so anyway, doing this, and finally it's like, what do you do with that? I mean, it's like, it's just kind of a weird thing that happened to me. But then as an adult, I found out about remote viewing and Project Stargate. We talked about the guy over the Alaskan Triangle at Mount Hayes, Peter Price, who was a remote viewer for them. And so I started looking into this remote viewing, and I thought, if I could see what was going to happen in the future, and I could sense that, I could feel it, I could see it, maybe I could do remote viewing and do it on purpose instead of it just accidentally happening in between this state of being asleep and awake. So I started reading everything I could about remote viewing and learning everything I could about how to do it and how our psychic spies did it, And so anyway, I started practicing. And the very first time I did it, this was my mother-in-law, this is for my ex-wife, my first wife. Her mother was moving somewhere. She didn't know where. So in remote viewing, you have a piece of paper with grid coordinates on it, and the grid coordinates are given to you by someone, and just random numbers. Okay, two sets of four random numbers. They don't mean anything except for the person who created that number by putting an intentional stamp on those numbers. Numbers are written down, and then from that you start your remote viewing. So I started doing this, and as I'm doing it, I see the very first thing I see this mountain that has like two humps, and one is higher than the other. And there's a cross up on top of it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it doesn't mean anything to me, And then I saw a helix, like DNA, like that, double helix. I saw a window that slid left to right instead of up and down. See, all this stuff is just random and doesn't make any sense. But then I saw a torpedo, and I thought, well, that's weird. I saw three numbers.
They weren't 666.
No, they weren't 666, but they were. I mean, it was three numbers, and So I'm like, I have no idea what this means, you know. And so I show this to my ex-wife, and I say, okay, this is what I saw in this remote viewing, you know, which means absolutely nothing. My mother walked by, and she says, oh, I know what that is. And she pointed at the mountain. There was this double humped mountain. And she said, my mother lived in San Diego when she was younger. And she says, that's Mount Helix. And I thought, okay, so I drew the helix out. Mm-hmm. And then this is Mount Helix. So anyway, come to find out, mother-in-law was in San Diego moving into an apartment out there that had a window that slid left to right instead of up and down in this apartment, very near Mount Helix. The 3 numbers that I saw were the last 3 numbers of her new telephone number.
That she hadn't gotten yet.
That she hadn't gotten yet. She didn't have the new number yet, but when she got the number, that's the last 3 numbers was those 3. Yeah, I mean, it's trippy.
I've obviously heard this story.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, it was an absolute trip for me, you know, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really exciting.
Sorry.
Scottish hello.
Scottish hello.
And so anyway, that's how I got into going down that path of the remote viewing and all that. Anyway, pretty close to within just a few miles of where she actually was. Now, if I back up from that, that's one part of my, what I call my paranormal life, my ability to see beyond my temporal space. The other part of it came when I moved into a house in Seagoville, Texas. And my family life, my mother and father, all of that was extremely dysfunctional. And so constantly they fought. I mean, just horrible fights, screaming and hollering at each other, you know. And anyway, we move into this house in Seagoville. And it's typical cookie cutter subdivision type house, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and had an attached garage, a postage stamp of a yard with no trees. And we get there, and as I'm going through the house, my room had these drawings inside the closet. And they were just really strange, weird drawings, like symbols. And the only one that I remember specifically was the Eye of Horus. And, you know, when I was researching later as I grew up, that I found out that the Eye of Horus represents peace and order. And it was ironic that it was not peaceful and orderly in that house. It was chaos. And so anyway, things would move in this house. And you would put something down, you turn around, you turn back, and it's gone. Show back up later somewhere else. And I mean, and this was constant. Literally things that went bump in the night were in that house. And there was one time when my sister came to my room and she said, I'm hearing voices. I'm hearing people talking. I'm like, what? And she said, yeah, I'm hearing people talking. And I said, well, you sleep on that end of the bed. I'll sleep on this end of the bed. And you can stay in here with me. And as we're laying there.
She's not a schizophrenic or anything. Let's clarify that.
Yeah, she's not schizophrenic. And she wasn't prone to hearing voices. I hear in the attic above me, it sounds like something scampering.
Squirrels?
Right, absolutely. Or raccoon or possum or cat. Could have been.
Field mice.
Could have been. But this scampering keeps getting louder and louder and louder until this thing is walking around like it sounds like out in the hallway next to my room, like a grown man. It sounds like there's a grown man in the attic walking around, and it stops above my bed.
Nope.
Just stops. And I'm laying there, you know, and my eyes are like this, and my heart's beating out of its chest, and I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, 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 3 times on the ceiling. I mean, literally rattle the rafter type stomping. I do a backflip out of the bed, run in there and tell my dad, hey, you know, this is going on. This is what I heard. Your FOS, go back to bed, go sleep. You know? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm terrified. There's something there. And so that happened there. And then there was one day I was doing dishes, and in the house that we lived in, there was a the sink faced the backyard. So you're sitting here doing dishes, you know, and off to the left is the breakfast nook. And then in front of on one side of the breakfast nook is the back door that goes out to the backyard. On the other side, it's the garage. And that garage, we didn't use it to put cars in. It was storage, you know. So on the outside, it had a padlock. This is one of the old kind where you just lifted it up. There was no automatic door. And so it had a padlock on it because we used it for storage and not cars. So as I'm doing dishes, I hear something rattling. And I look over, and this knob is sitting there doing this number. And it's rattling in the door frame. The knob is just sitting there rattling. And I'm like, what the heck? So I go over. Nobody can get in because the door's locked down in the front. And I reach over there and grab that knob, you know. And when I grabbed it, I mean, it was like ice in my hands. And I mean, it's just like, oh my God, you know, like it had been in the freezer. And so there was that at that house.
Was it locked?
No, I don't think it was.
But something was jiggling it.
But something was jiggling that knob. I don't recall it being locked. But anyway, we ended up moving from there and then moving to Cedar Creek Lake after that. And when I got to Cedar Creek Lake, we were talking in class one day, and the conversation came up of, hey, do you believe in ghosts and haunted houses and all that? And I go, well, hell yeah, I do. I lived in one, so, for sure I believe in it. And so everybody was trying to get me to go out to their haunted house they had, right? And so, and I use the air quotes because every little town has some place that's haunted. And as I'm talking to these people, I know how this works. I'm not stupid. They say, hey, let's go out to the haunted house. And they pick the date and time, and then their friend is waiting out there.
It's a snipe hunt.
Yeah, and when you show up, they jump out and they holler, boo,
Or they throw pea-filled balloons at you.
Yeah, or, something
I feel like you say this like you've experienced it or watched it
That's
on a movie.
It's an office quote.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, so...
Before you go there, had you ever seen in your previous house, before you moved to Cedar Creek Lake, any kind of... You only heard things, or did y'all have an
Ghost.
apparition?
No apparition.
I never saw anything there.
Did anybody else?
Yes. My mother and father saw a spirit, for lack of a better word, because it was mist, that appeared at the foot of the bed.
White mist or black mist?
White. And my grandmother at the time was in the hospital. She was passing. And she said her mother was at our house and waiting there until she was ready to leave. So my mother and father see this thing appear at the end of the bed, this mist, and then it just fades away. My mother said, if this is Grandma Woods, show yourself to us again. The mist comes back and disappears again. Now, if it had been just one of them saw it, I would have called complete BS.
But your Grandma Woods, she didn't die in that house or anything.
No, but
She was waiting for the grandmother that was at the
her daughter
hospital.
was in the hospital dying. And I think it was one of those cases where, somebody gets to the end of their life and the loved ones come up to help them cross over. I think that's what it was. I think Grandma Woods was there waiting on her. At least that one.
So you had never seen anything at this point in your life before you moved
I
to
had never seen
the lake.
anything.
You just saw the doorknob.
I saw the doorknob
Heard
jiggle
the
and I heard
steps
the
above
stuff.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get down to Cedar Creek Lake and move into the place there at camp, and they're trying to get me to go out to the haunted house. Well, then like I say, I know the scam, so I wasn't going to fall for it. And so there was an occasion that we were all supposed to have this party, and the guy's house who we were supposed to go to, his parents didn't leave out of town, so we couldn't go there and party that weekend. So my idea, my timeline, my time frame, I said, hey, since you guys keep telling me about this haunted house, let's go out to the haunted house. This way I knew they couldn't set me up, right?
This is also the beginning of many a slasher film.
Right?
Yes.
So 3 couples, 3 guys, 3 girls. We go out to the haunted house. And I know why they called it this, because supposedly the guy that lived there, and the family still lives in camp, or did when I was a kid. Guy kills his wife, chops her up, throws her down the well, then hangs himself.
It's a pretty good way to create
yeah.
a haunted house.
And so anyway, which, legends and stories and, so you never really know how much weight to put on something like that.
So what happened to him? Did he kill himself in the house afterwards? Did that?
That's what I just said.
Did I miss that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My bad.
You were sleeping through that.
My ear was itching. I think I was concentrating on that at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the guy killed his wife that lived in the house. Then he hung himself in the house.
Hung himself. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Why did he bother chopping her up and shit? If
I
he was
don't
gonna
know.
hang himself
It
I
was
don't
one
know.
of those murder-suicides.
I don't know why he did
chop,
what he did.
Chop the body up.
I'm
to
just telling
hide
you.
it.
I'm telling you the story that
He was
been
told.
passed down. So we go out there, and like I say, there's 6 of us. So there's 2 people decide to go in, and guess who
You.
the 2 are? Okay, it's me and Tracy. But I got to tell you about this house because it sits like 100 yards off the road. It is a 2-story, dilapidated wood frame
Nice.
house
It looks haunted.
with all these dead trees around it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, it's like the House of Usher or something, And so
And that when we drive by, I say, "Oh, that's
oh,
haunted.
that's haunted.
That's
1,000% AF. That's haunted. Yeah, you definitely would say it was haunted.
Okay.
So I see this, and I go, "Oh wow, that does look haunted," And so anyway, we walk up to the house. You have to jump the fence and park at the road and walk the 100 yards up to the house. I get up there, and it's creepy feeling just walking up, and then as you're there. And going in, there's me and Tracy, one guy besides myself. We go in. This is August. This is summertime. We're not even in school right now. We're right before school started. So it's still summertime in Texas. It's
Hot as balls.
97 degrees outside at 10 o'clock. And,
Kinda like today.
Yeah, like today. And
Soupy.
yeah, it's soupy, So anyway,
So
it's hot. We get inside. And I know you've been in a sauna before, and you walk in, it's that hot stickiness that's all over you. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, except it's cold. So it's that
Sounds pretty good, actually.
cold that's on you. And I didn't realize that's what it was. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, it just feels icky in here, right?
I hope you didn't say icky. Could you get your ass whooped out?
No, I didn't say icky. My buddy, though, he said, dude, look at your breath. And I blew out, and it's like, and you could see, it was like I was standing in a freezer, like a walk-in freezer or something. You could see the breath coming out because it's so cold in this house.
Wow.
So it was cold, dude. I mean, cold. we went upstairs.
It'd be
and
somewhat refreshing in August in Texas, though.
If
If it probably didn't be a buzz and accompanied by some creepy feeling too.
it was definitely creepy feeling. And so anyway, we go upstairs and we go look at the room where the guy was that supposedly had hung himself and shine the lights up there. Okay, so now we've proven our masculinity and, we've faced that challenge. We've proved, hey, we're tough guys.
Did you find anything?
No. There was markings up there, so I don't know if somebody had hung a rope and rubbed it and made it look that way or what.
I don't know. The cold is enough to.
That's
Because
something.
I assume the AC was not functioning in this dilapidated old house.
It never had electricity. The house is that old.
Is it still there?
No, it burnt down.
Oh man. I was fixing to say we need to.
Oh, I never go
An
back.
hour away from here.
Never go back. Wait, you'll figure out why. Because so anyway, Tracy and I are like, okay, deuces, let's get out. We've done it. We've done the deed. We go down, and everybody downstairs like, oh, we got to get out of here. We got, it's creepy here. And so anyway, we get down there and we start walking towards a car. We get about 30 yards away from the house. And all of a sudden, we hear a scream. And I mean, blood-curdling ice
Like the
sickles.
one at the end of our
It's
intro?
worse. It was worse than that. It like icicles up your spine. And we hear this from behind us. We all turn and look. My hand before everything that I think is holy. There was a woman standing in the second floor window
Where y'all were.
where we had been. There is a light behind her. There's no electricity in this house. She is in a dress, like an old 1902
20s.
dress or whatever. Yeah,
1800s, yeah.
1800s dress. Something out of 1883 or something. And she's up there in the top of that, and she is screaming just, and it's just on and on and on. And of course, we're hearing this as we're running to the car. The other, 70 yards that we had to run to get to the car. And
How fast did you clear that distance?
dude, it didn't take any
You're like
time.
Usain Bolt, right?
I was hauling ass to get to that car. And we get out there. Of course, when we turn around then, and there's nothing there. You don't see her anymore. But I mean, just knowing what I know now and understanding in my best, what I think I understand, the energy that it would take to produce that full-bodied apparition, the physical scream, and I can't imagine.
The light, even.
The light. So,
Probably why it's so cold in there. It already sucked all the
oh my God.
all the warmth, all the energy out of the air, all the heat, everything to be able to. It just missed you.
Oh my God.
What if that
So-
had happened and you'd
When
been
you were
when you were
there.
in the room?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
if you'd been there.
You mean after or
Inside.
before my heart attack?
Yeah.
So I come to find out later, one of the other people that had been out there said that when we were walking up to the house, there's a couple of old dilapidated vehicles, like 1930s, 40s, 50s, something like that. I mean, old, rusted ass derelicts, And they said as we were walking out, they said later that they saw somebody looking up like this out of one of the cars.
Nope.
Like a spirit that they could see look and then just fade. Now, this is after the fact, and they didn't tell us this before we went in the house or anything. But I'm just thinking.
Oh, they looked at you before you walked up to the house?
They said that as we're walking up,
Okay.
that one of the girls said she saw somebody look out of one of the cars and not a homeless person. This is out in the country.
I would
This
have
is-
been gone right
Oh.
then. I would have been back to the car.
Well, that's one of the reasons they were so freaked out when we were, up in the house. So that was the one that really, I guess, got me to wanting to do the ghost hunting thing and the paranormal investigation type stuff, because that thing right there, I was just so absolutely terrified of that thing, whatever it was, because, I mean, you felt it when you walked in.
Don't you wish, though, that these had been invented and you
Oh,
had
yeah.
this? And
Oh, yeah. Go in there with some K2 meters, or
just
REM
just an
pods,
iPhone,
or,
just so you
just
could have got
anything.
that on camera.
So that was as a kid. And then as an adult, I started doing the whole ghost hunting thing. And but another haunted house that I lived in back in the early 2000s, and this was a little bit different but similar in some of the same ways as the experience I had as a kid. But this one was more interactive, and there were more things that happened, but they weren't as scary, I guess, most of the time. And like my wife and I would lay down, ex-wife would lay down in bed at night, and she would put her pills for the night in a little plastic pill cup, kind of like you would get
At the hospital.
yeah, at the hospital, or it goes on top of the little medicine bottles, And there's a little plastic pill cup, and it would sit there and it'd go tick 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 on the counter every night after we lay down. And so anyway, it was finally one time I talked to it and I say, hey, this isn't exciting, this isn't cool, this doesn't scare me, so won't you do something that'll impress me? And when I said that, you hear this bam, 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 just 3 taps, and it was on the counter. And I went in there to see, okay, what made the sound? And, so you're trying different things on the counter, and there was really nothing there. There was a toothbrush and a hairbrush, the pill cup, and that was it, And she knows my ex-wife, and she's fastidious. So is that a nice way of saying it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very fastidious. And
She's got a stick up her ass, what you say.
dude, you could have.
She's very clean.
It's
Very, very
It was like
clean.
living in a museum. I mean, everything was like spotless clean all the time.
Plastic things on the couches covering.
Yeah. No, but anyway, so there was the hairbrush, and that when I tried that was the sound of the banging that I heard. And later on, there was one night that we're laying in the bed, and we're facing each other, laying on our sides. We hadn't gone to sleep yet, and from underneath the bed. Now I got to tell the part where I was doing paranormal investigations, going out to haunted houses, graveyards, just whatever, all the time back then. I worked in a haunted hospital, which I'll get to in a little bit. But we're laying there, and I hear this growl, this deep, deep, deep growl from underneath the bed. And my eyes pop open. And when my eyes pop open, her eyes pop open. And I look at her and go, did you hear that? And she said, you mean that effing growl? And I'm like, yeah, that. So in just a few seconds later, the dog in the living room, we had this great big
Rhodesian Ridgeback cross.
Yeah, Labrador Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Labraback.
Yeah, Labraback or something. I don't know.
Labdesian.
You're way ahead of the curve on
hybrid dogs. Yeah,
hybrid dogs.
Yeah, he was a lab
a rotador.
African or Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Godzilla versus
Anyway, he started raising hell in the living room and growling and barking.
And you knew he wasn't underneath the bed. He
No.
can't get under the bed.
He couldn't fit under the bed.
What about the hairdryer?
So
I've heard some of these stories. So
yeah, it's
I'm
like at one
prompting
point,
you.
My ex was doing her daughter's hair, was blow drying it, and as she's blow drying her hair, she has one of those little taco kid things, that had the different appliances and
Like
stuff.
the play kitchen sets and
Like
like
a
the play
easy bake
bathroom.
oven kind of
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's for
And it had-
hairstyling.
Gotcha.
And it had a hair dryer there. Well, while she's doing that, the
It
hair
has a
dryer
hair
came
dryer
on.
that will turn on and make the noise. And
And the hairdryer came on.
There's a little thing
while
that
she's
goes in a
doing,
circle.
while
she-
she's using a real one in another room.
Right. And so anyway, there was all kinds of stuff. We always had. There was one time I said when I challenged it, the thing, whatever it was there, I said, this is really boring, all this crap you're doing. I said, I want you to do something that'll impress me. I get up the next morning and every light in the freaking house is on. It was always slamming doors and cabinet doors, constantly slamming. There was one time I was. I couldn't sleep or wasn't sleeping or whatever, but I was up and I was doing EVP stuff in the living room, and I hear something moving over in the kitchen, and I said on the EVP, I said, "Is that you?" And then nothing for about 30 seconds, and then you hear this, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
You're
so that's
encouraging
somebody
this
else.
activity. You're encouraging it in a
Oh.
house that you are living in.
Yeah, and there was
He was really into it, I think, at that time.
there was
so.
I can say encouraging. If you're going to someone else's house or an abandoned place, but in the place that you actually lay your head
I
every
was
night,
living in a haunted house every day.
but you're inviting more further activity by continually interacting.
Yes,
I think he thought it was fun. I really do.
yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
It'll get old after a while.
It did. There was.
Was there a time that it would happen and it wouldn't? Was it a constant? Did it go in like
It seemed
waves?
to. It seemed to happen more often when she and I were fighting, and she and I fought a lot. Not physically fight, but just bickering, fussing,
So that the strife would bring
negative
in
energy,
poltergeisty type activity drawn in by. Been there. Yep.
and so there was.
Did you feel like it was evil? Like other than the growl, did you ever feel
That growl,
scared?
Yeah. The growl felt evil.
But nothing ever else did. Is that why you think you just continued to kind of egg it on?
I didn't think of it as egging it on.
He's an antagonistic type person anyway. If you have a button, he's going to push it. It
Well,
doesn't
he knows
matter
that.
if you're a
He's-
ghost.
Sage never crossed your mind. It's just sage.
Oh, he doesn't care if you are a living human or a paranormal spirit. He's going to push the button.
I do remember one time, and
Cold fuck with
this was totally unexpected. But I'm sitting there, and I had this cat, and I love this cat, really cool cat, and his name was Jinx. Okay, black cat.
Jinxie cat, Jinxie
Jinx.
cat. I love you.
So this cat was sitting there, and I took my knife out and I went like this, and I went like that, and pointed it at the cat, just being silly, Well, whatever was there didn't think I was being silly, and so from 3 feet away, this clock flies off the wall at me, and like lands right at my feet. I mean, I'm not talking drops; it flies out and falls. Bam.
And you said, that was not impressive. What else you got?
Well, no, actually, that was kind of impressive because that's the first time I'd ever seen anything fly like that. Now, it happened later at a house I was at where something actually flew across the room at me, but that was a bed rail from a bed, so you can imagine. I mean,
So it had to unhook it from the footboard and the headboard?
no, they were just laying in the room,
oh.
but it just flew across the room at me. So that
It
was
takes a lot of energy to move.
yeah, and that was a bad place too. But
Has that one burned down?
It's not there anymore.
it's not there anymore. I don't know
Damn.
what happened to it. So a hospital that I worked at, and it was a psych hospital, so I know that sounds cliche as hell.
You should say something actually about that house first before you move on to your hospital.
What about the house?
About that one that you went and did EVPs in the whole wall, kind of like you had talked about. You had referenced
Oh, the
it
one
in
where the
in the
bed rail
Amityville.
flew at me?
Yeah.
So there was a scene out of that, my experiences there that made me think of like Amityville with the flies, except that when I went in, it was.
Because you referenced it during our Amityville.
Yeah, I walked in and the wall is covered. The whole end of the trailer is covered with wasps.
I'm out.
Yeah, I was.
Nope.
So, but in that house, I
Well, at least it's
experienced.
not roaches or June bugs.
I experienced cold spots. I got touched on more than one occasion.
Can you show me on the doll where?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I can.
Not making fun
Where
of that at all,
where did
but
the
that
spirit-
is, I was not
Where did the
expecting
spirit
that.
touch you? Did he hurt you? Did he respect you in the morning? You know,
It was cold, it touched you, and then that's when the bed rail.
and the bed. No, well, actually, those are all at different times, but
The same place, right?
same place. Yeah. Yeah.
It was this ratted out. It was a trailer that was sitting on. It had been their grandparents grandmother had lived there for years, and she had long died before. I think
Played with Ouija boards.
they played with Ouija boards, and he was the one. I think he has found like arrowheads and such, and taken them home on his own land, and so they wonder
Isn't that illegal now?
It's absolutely illegal. But
Yeah. I don't really understand.
he was
but-
digging up burial grounds, Indian
Oh,
burial grounds.
that's definitely
Yeah.
horrible disrespect.
And so
it's the same as digging up any other grave. It's
You're
it's
digging up a
extremely
grave.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I think that's why
He stirred up some stuff.
they won. Yeah, that they
The
thought
only
so.
good grave digger is a giant 4-wheel drive truck called Grave Digger.
Right. But yeah, that was one place, and then the hospital that I worked at, I guess 12 years, ish.
What year is this? 2000.
Well, I worked at that hospital, not the hospital system. The
Right,
hospital
I know,
system
but I was
worked
trying
for
to think when you came into our group, when you started working. That would have been 2000.
11, 10, 11.
I think you
When that particular system go live that you were hired to help, that was 2012,
Yeah, it was in
February.
12.
So, yeah.
Was it 12?
February
Okay.
2012.
We didn't get married until 11.
So anyway, I had been out there for a long time already, and psychiatric hospital, doors would slam.
That had previously been hospice. One
Yeah.
half of it had been hospice.
So doors
Well,
would
there's still a hospice next door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. But it was originally in that hospital.
doors would slam, lights would come on and off. At one point, we had the old plunger bells like you would see in the old hotel.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, we had those for some of the patients so that they could reach over and ding. And in empty rooms, it'd be ding, 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 ding,
No
ding.
West Call system in that hospital.
No, there's no call lights.
No, not at that one.
Everybody's walkie-talkie. So you don't need call lights.
So anyway,
Ish.
patients and staff would see apparitions walking up and down the halls. There was, God, just on and on and on I could go
I wonder
about
if,
that.
If there's still stuff going on, because it's not being used for that purpose anymore. The facility is a call center now. And I just wonder if the women and men, not saying only women work call centers, but the folks in the call center who work overnight, like who are there now, have they ever experienced anything? Because I don't know how
I would
they
like to
set
know.
that up. Because you know how the 1 hall and the 3 hall, I don't know how they set that up as a call center.
Is that where it is right now?
Yeah, that's where I don't want to say the name, but you know,
Interesting.
the ones
Yeah.
that used to be downstairs from
Yeah.
our office, they're now out there.
Oh,
and,
no.
and they've moved all that out to north. So,
Really?
So one of the, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened there. One of my strangest, I guess, experiences that I had out there was sitting on, they call it an A status, which means you're within arm's length of the patient usually because the patient, it's a self-harm patient where they're trying to hurt themselves and
Or
you
somebody else.
Yeah, or someone else, and you have to be that close to stop them. And
y'all needed trank guns out there to build.
it would have helped at times, but I was working graveyard, so because I was going to school for nursing during the day, and so I'm sitting in this room with this kid, and I've got the curtains pulled, and there's a window in front of me, so I can see the light in the hallway. There's a reflection, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm studying. I never will forget. It was pediatric nursing, so it's not like I'm sitting there reading Stephen King or Dean Koontz or something. And so this nurse, she always walked the halls the same way, and to do the rounds, and we had to do rounds every 15 minutes. So I'm sitting there, And she would stop by and ask me, if I wanted to go out on a break and smoke a cigarette or something, or need to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, whatever. I'm sitting there studying, and I hear her at the door, and I hear her say, "Michael." And I look up, and there's no reflection of somebody behind me. And so I get up, I walk to the door, and I look down the hallway to the left, because that's the next room in succession that she would be at while she's doing these rounds. And I look down the hall, and she's not there. I look back to the right, and she's sitting at the nurse's station. Her feet are propped up, and she's working a crossword puzzle. And so that was...
those were the days.
Do what?
I said, those were the days.
Oh, those were the days. So we started recording our personal experiences, and it lasted for 2 hours instead of just one. And we got a whole nother hour of stories, more of my personal experiences, more of John's experiences, some of Alyssa's. So if you want to hear the rest of them, you're going to have to check back next week. So this will be part 1. Part 2 will come next week. Same time. Catch you guys next week. Bye.